Welcome back to the BestWorst17 podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Label. My next guest was born Giovanni Gabriele Prasad Morales, who's a speaker, mental health and wellness champion, a filmmaker, an activist, and a storyteller, and really so much more. Born in San Francisco, California, he was adopted at 9 months with folks who helped him towards a better life. But as you will learn from his story, I'm certain this was not always to be the case, and things weren't always so easy. In September 2000, he made a decision to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge with an attempt to end his life, which came out to be a really powerful story that he's been able to share really around the country and around the world. Surviving this decision allowed him to be able to help so many people by telling his inspirational story. You can find him at kevinhinesstory.com or at kevinhinesstory on Instagram and Twitter. Welcome, Kevin Hines.
Thank you very much, Josh. Glad to be here with you.
Well, I appreciate you doing this. And again, I'm just super excited to hear more about your story. And so let's just jump into it. Right now, you are, I've seen you on national TV. I've seen your talks online. And just tell us a little bit more about what your efforts are and what you're doing right now.
Absolutely. So I pre-COVID, I traveled the world 300 plus days a year, sharing my story of hope, healing, and recovery to people in mental pain. I live with bipolar disorder. I take medication for it. I'm treated for it. And in the year 2000, 2 years after being diagnosed with the disease, I attempted to take my life in a way that is 99% fatal. I attempted to die by suicide from lethal emotional pain by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. It was the single worst action of my life. But like your podcast says, the best and worst thing came from it because I survived that fall. And in surviving that fall, I learned how to be self-aware with my diagnosis and how to fight it tooth and nail so I could survive any and all suicidal ideations, which I regularly have. And today I live a life with my lovely wife, Margaret, that is a happy life, a hope-filled life, a life filled with purpose. And I do that, because of what I learned after my attempt, not wishing that kind of action on any person. The reality is, if you can recognize that your thoughts don't have to become your actions when you're thinking of suicidal ideation, you can never attempt in the first place, which is what we really want people to do, never attempt in the first place. Traveling the world, sharing my story and sharing a message that is imparted upon people in different ways. And through video media, we do it. And we made a documentary called Suicide: The Ripple Effect. And that's out there for the world to see. And that chronicles my life story and the story of 6 other individuals from Australia who share their stories alongside me. And we really try to take storytelling as an art and science of storytelling. The neuroplasticity of the brain is such that when a story is told of pain and triumph over adversity, and when you get to the point about recovery and staying well to the best of your ability, those kinds of stories actually have the transformative power to save a life. What happens is individuals who are listening to those stories, they backbrain them. And when they're having a hard time, they think of those stories and they choose life. It's a fascinating piece of information to see that when you are actively storytelling in a way that is positive, hopeful, and enlightening, that you can actually have an effect on someone that's so powerful. And so I don't ever say that I saved a life. I've never saved a life in my existence. I say that we are conduits of change, and we spread a message that, as storytellers do, that impacts someone, and then they go home, they do the work, and they save and change their own life. And so, it doesn't matter how many people tell me that my story saved their life, and it's thousands by now have said that. The reality is they don't recognize that they're going home, they're doing the work, and they're augmenting their own destinies, which is fantastic, which is the goal in the first place. So I'm just lucky to be alive. I'm blessed for every moment that I get to exist past the day I should have died 20 years ago. And I'm grateful to be here talking to you.
Well, thank you so much. I'm grateful that you're here too. And I think you're right. Blessed to be alive and to have such great people in your life. Your wife, I got a chance to see her talk a little bit about her level of support for you. She sounds like just an amazing human being. You can never underscore the need of having a great support network. And I think you got it, man. You won, the lotto with that. So that's incredible. So let's talk about this concept about thoughts not equaling actions, because I really agree with you. I think thoughts in positive ways can lead to some pretty powerful actions and can really push us into directions like you're doing, which is, again, pre-pandemic, being able to travel around the world. Post-pandemic, you'll get right back after it. Again, being able to share those stories. But on the other end, we all have, whether we are dealing with bipolar disorder or mild depression or even just the blues, we all have some thoughts that go through our minds. And so I love this concept. Tell me how you kind of came to this conclusion about this thoughts not equaling actions. Did you learn it somewhere? Is it something that you've just developed over time? Tell me a little bit more.
It was something that I'm sure it's existed before I thought of it.
Yes.
I'm sure I wasn't the first person that thought of it, but I never heard it before I said it. And I remember being in a speech one day and like actually prior to the speech, prior to going on stage, thinking like, how can I hit this audience with something that is profound enough to help the ones that are suicidal in the audience stay here. And it was right before I was about to talk about being on the actual bridge and looking over the rail. And I get to that point and I switched it up for a moment. I said, in that moment, I wish I knew back then what I know today, that my thoughts do not have to become my actions. Think about that saying for a moment. Think about that phrase. Our thoughts do not have to become our actions. As in, our thoughts don't have to own, rule, or define what we do next. Thus, if we are thinking of suicide actively, we never have to attempt in the first place. I wish I knew back then what I know today. And that's where it came from. It came organically from my mind. I'm sure it's existed before I said it, but I really it just popped in there and I said it out loud. And I cannot tell you the first time I said it, how many people came up to me and said that just that phrase alone resonated with them so deeply.
Yeah, it's a very powerful message. And I understand because it resonated with me as well. I love the idea that they're thoughts, but they don't have to own, rule, or define us. And the actions that we take are critically important as well. I want to talk about two other things for sure as well. One of them is living with bipolar disorder. I love this idea that, there's an acceptance of this thing that you have, right? A lot of us are dealing with anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, just all kinds of different mental health concerns that a lot of us are dealing with. And there's this impossible feeling with the place where you realize the rest of our lives, we are going to have to live with this condition. But you, like so many other people who have been successful to have thriving lives, have come to this idea of being able to live and deal with it and accept it. And so would you mind talking a little bit more about that?
Sure. It's not just living, it's surviving and thriving with it. And I don't have to, it's not like I'm labeling myself bipolar. I don't have to do that. It's that I have this disease that I know I fight it tooth and nail because I've been through the symptoms every year for the last, almost 20 years. Since 1998, so 22 years. It's something that I accept it. And in that acceptance, I can defeat it because I know what it is. And in that acceptance, I can fight it and I can win every time. And that's how I look at it. That's really how I look at it. I remember going into a speech one year, years ago in 2010, and I was wearing a suit and tie because that's what it called for. And it was mostly a speech filled with what people call consumers or patients. I don't like calling them that. We're not shoppers at Target. We're citizens of hope trying to find light at the end of the tunnel.
That's right.
So I like to call us citizens of hope because we're trying to find that hope so we can survive and so we can thrive. And I'm in front of that audience and a person yells out, "You don't have bipolar disorder?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, look at you in your suit and tie. You look like you're fine." And I thought, oh, okay. Wow. So his assumption, because I look like I'm fine, that I am fine. And I was having a really hard time that day. In my travels and in general. And mentally, And I broke it down. I said, listen, let me explain to you what I go through. And I reversed his thinking, and possibly the rest of the audience. Who knows who else was thinking the same thing. But we have these notions of people that if they're prim and proper, then they must not be having any issues.
Right.
Well, that's just a bunch of nonsense. And that makes no sense. So I've had to deal with that kind of attitude for a long time when people say, oh, you seem fine in your social media posts or whatever. So today I really try to, when I'm posting online, I post the good, the bad, and the ugly, because it's not just a highlight reel. When I'm doing well, if I'm doing well for a long time, you might see a lot of great stuff, but that's because it's going on in real time. But when I'm hurting, like for example, a year and a half ago, I went back into a psychiatric hospital, and I went online and I told my audience about it, about that I'm going in. It's not gonna be pretty. I'm having a really rough time. My wife was standing right by my side. So yeah, she is the best support in the world. And I really, I just told my truth. And when I got out of the psych ward, I did another post about how hard it was to go through it and to be on the mend. And people really resonated with that because it wasn't just a highlight reel of hope and glitter and love and happiness all the time, but so we really try to be present in the moment and tell the truth.
Thank you for that. I think that, that's the comment everybody says about social media is that it is the highlights, right? It's the vacations, it's the new car, it's the whatever. And it sets up a standard of living that just most people cannot keep up with. And that's, for a lot of people, that really pushes them in a really dark place. And so your rawness and your ability to be completely authentic in your public presence is really appreciated. I really appreciate that.
I really feel bad for these teenagers who are looking at these feeds of these celebrities who compare themselves to them. And comparison is the absolute thief of joy. We've heard that a million times, but it's the thief of joy. And you're just looking at these unattainable dreams that you can't reach. And we should be managing our expectations, and we should be saying to ourselves, I will do what I can. Not now it's impossible, and I think that celebrity culture needs a swift kick in the pants to show sometimes their more vulnerable side. Yeah. Some of them are doing it and some of them are doing it well, which is great. But I would wager to say that most of them are not. And I think that the more we can have honest conversations on social media, and the more we can get off social media and be engaged with real people, the better off we'll be.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And again, thank you again for saying that. And I think hopefully again, a lot of people that will resonate with a lot of people. There's this other piece again, and about looking polished on the outside and people making assumptions. And I think that a lot of us move through the world where we look at other people and we think that they got it all going on. We have no clue what they're dealing with. I think you even highlighted this when I listened to your story about the many people who walk past you. I mean, you had tears streaming down your face. And I know the one woman, I know you've been able to reframe and realize that, her showing you beauty and having her take pictures of you on the bridge before you jumped. But this idea that, people just have no clue what everybody's dealing with. And so, it's just really important that people also hear that point as well, which is, reach out to people, say hello, check in with people. You don't know what's going on in someone's world, no matter what they look like in person or on stage or in social media. And I think that was a really important point.
I've always said that, when I was on the bridge, there was a woman who approached me smiling. And I thought, I really believe this is it. I don't have to do this. I don't have to die today. She's going to ask me if I'm okay. And I can tell her everything and she can save my life. I left it into her hands, which wasn't fair. It was not fair. She didn't know what I was going through, and she can't read minds. And instead of asking me if I was okay, which is what I was hoping for, so I could tell her everything, which I made a pact with myself. If one person says, "Are you okay? Is something wrong? Can I help you?" I would have told them everything and begged them to save me. But she said, "Will you take my picture?" And in that moment, I broke down. I was like, absolutely nobody cares. But then I realized years later, maybe, like you said, maybe she was trying to show me something beautiful, and maybe she was trying to show me something hopeful, like a smile, and it was a simple gesture. Maybe there was a language barrier. Who knows what was going on in her mind? Um, but I took her picture. She walked away, and then I attempted to take my life off that bridge, and I think, I would love the opportunity to meet her in person one day and ask her what she was going through, because I'm sure it wasn't easy for her. I'm sure it wasn't easy for her. And I don't know if she found out that the person who took her picture jumped. Who knows if she found out or not? But if she did, that must have been devastating. And what did she go through after that? And so reaching out to people who you see in active emotional distress is really important when you're comfortable doing so. And being, you don't have to do much. Walk over to them, say, "Hey, you don't look too well. Are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help you? I'm here for you, whatever you're going through, and I've done that to so many people. And my wife and I have been a part of so many active rescues in just getting someone to open up and sitting them down and saying, "Hey, I'm here for you." And they're like, "Why do you care?" And usually my answer is because I'm human and so are you. And I've been there. And they say, "Well, I feel so alone." And I don't invalidate that feeling. I used to say to people who say, "I don't feel so alone," you're not alone. But that just invalidates them. What I say is, I know what it's like to feel alone. But sit with me and we'll get past this moment. We'll get you to safety. And it's been amazing to see how many people we can get to a safe place.
So powerful, Kevin. I really appreciate that. Part of your story that I recall listening to a lot of your content was your father, who sounds like an incredible human being. And so if you can tell us just briefly a little bit about kind of your background. It sounds like they adopted you at 9 months old. And so I'd love to hear more about kind of your upbringing there.
Yeah, so I was born into severe poverty, born to biological parents, Marcia and Martino, who had nothing and no one, and who both have been diagnosed with manic depression, what we today call bipolar disorder, the very same brain disease I'd be diagnosed with. My mother was triply diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. They would leave us unattended so much that we were taken from them and put into foster care. In foster care, my birth brother died. My only full-blooded brother passed away. We both got bronchitis. He disappeared. He died. I developed a severe detachment disorder from reality and abandonment issues that follow me until today. And I ended up going to bounce around from home to home until I got lucky enough to be taken in by the Hines family and made into their son. And that's my mom and dad. And so beautiful home, beautiful family, loving family, hardworking family. My dad, Pat, he didn't have much growing up as a kid. Really, he had very little. His parents would die of alcoholism, liver cirrhosis, failure at very young ages. And he had to kind of hustle to survive to make his way in the world. He would become one of the most prominent San Francisco bankers of his time. My mom would become one of San Francisco's staple nurses. She worked in nursing for 45 years, all the way from the burn unit 45 years ago to the mental health San Francisco unit today. And she worked in juvenile hall before before she retired. So she's had many jobs in nursing, every job you can think of in nursing. And they gave us, me, my brother, my sister, from 3 different families into one, this melting pot of a family. My brother's Black, my sister's white, I'm mixed, and my Pat and Debbie are Irish and German. And I always say in my speeches that when people saw us walking down the street, they were just very confused. We were a very mixed race family. Yeah. And we were happy, we were so happy. Yes. And growing up in that family was a beautiful thing. And, even with all that stability, the 3 of us kids would each see the inside of psych wards 3 times before we were all 30 years of age. Yeah. And that was because not of our nurturing, but our nature. It was because of our biology. It was because of our brains. Your brains are the most powerful organs in your body. They're the most powerful tool you have. And if your brain is, for lack of a better term, broken, there goes the rest of you.
Well, you're right on with that. And to me, it sounds like you had a beautiful family. And so I think, you just, the Hines,
Yeah.
you have a beautiful family. Absolutely have
Yeah.
a beautiful family. It sounds like,
I just saw my mom and my brother last night.
oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I picture your family, I picture the American dream. Just the
Yeah.
diversity of it, just the
Yeah.
generosity in it, just the realness in it. No matter what all you three were going through, that you had the support that people need and doing it in community with people who have true love. And that's amazing. I really appreciate you sharing that. So at this point, we're going to take a little bit of a break and get back to the big question. All right, as you know, this show's the best worst thing, and of course, I know we've been talking about a lot of different things here related to your story, but this is the time where our guests share, anything they want to share about a personal or professional setback and how they got through that setback and what are the lessons that they really want the listeners to take away with them. And so maybe this is connected to your big story that you shared earlier, maybe it's something different, but I want to give you the floor. So Kevin, what's your best worst thing?
My best worst thing, I think it would have to be the chapter in my book called The Epiphany and the Gift. And so my best worst thing was I was in my third psych ward stay of 9 in 14 years, in the year 2004, in May to be exact. May 1st to June 25th, I was inside the psych wards for 2 months. And my parents wouldn't take me back. They were done. I was in my third psych ward stay. They couldn't handle it anymore. No friends would take me in. No family would take me in. People were like, you got to get better on your own. I'm in that psych ward, and I'm trying to apply for halfway homes to get let out into so I'm not homeless when I get out. And I'm applying for halfway homes. The first one denies me. The second one approves me, so I'm waiting for a bed. I'm in the psych ward, and I'm overweight. I'm pre-diabetic. I'm not doing well mentally. I'm punching the walls till my knuckles bleed. It's just bad. And one fateful day, this kid comes in on a gurney, and he's catatonic, and he can't move and he can't talk. And every single day of his stay, for the first 2 weeks of his stay, he's not moving and not talking. Everyone's just rolling around in a wheelchair. And the deal in that psych ward was if you weren't helping yourself, no one was helping you. A couple of things happen around this time. My Uncle George comes to see me against visiting hours for a special admit. They allow him in to see me. And he comes to visit me in the cafeteria. It's all empty, just me and him. He has a rolled-up magazine in his left hand. And he says, Kevin, your family can help you until we're blue in the face. But until and when you take 110% responsibility for the fact that you have this disease and you fight it tooth and nail, kid, ain't nothing going to change. You'll be in and out of these places for the rest of your life. Is that what you want? I said, no, Uncle George. He said, we'll get it together. And he dropped the Time magazine article on the table like that. And he said, read it. On the cover, it said, How to Defeat Bipolar Disorder, Depression, and Mental Illness with Routine and Regimen and Win. 2004 Time magazine article. And I said, you mean I could do these things and I might feel better? Okay. All right. Here we go. So I read the article. I read it through and through twice. I put words into action. I go to the case manager or the nursing station. I go to my case manager, Jenna. I say, can I have a job? She says, what do you mean? I said, well, you got me in here doing 10 forms of therapy. Give me something productive to do. She says, you're telling me you want to volunteer for the very psych ward that you're staying in as a patient. I said, yes. She said, no, that's highly unethical, probably illegal. That's not going to happen, Kevin.
Right.
I said, well, can I have a hug? And she said, get away from me. I said, well, 23-second hugs release oxytocin in the brain to make you feel better. And she said, no, just stop. Well, the kid that was catatonic, every single day during breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I would talk to him. I would sit with him every day, by just me and him, in our own little table, and I would just talk to him. I would tell him story after story after story, and he would just sit there, zombie-eyed, not saying a thing. Well, I'm starting to do better. I'm eating healthier. I'm losing the weight. I'm working out every moment I'm not in therapy. I'm on the ground working out in my hospital room. Doing everything I can to exercise and get in shape and feel better. And so I'm exercising, I'm eating healthier, I'm educating myself, reading every book I can on bipolar disorder, the book Loving Someone with Bipolar Disorder, the book Bipolar for Dummies by Candida Fink and Joe Cranak. And I'm just educating myself because my uncle's bringing me all of these books. And I end up sitting with the kid again, who can't move and can't talk. And finally one day he goes like this, Jesus Christ, man, you talk too much. Leave me alone. God, I know your whole life story. Just can you back off? It was great. People were clapping. It was fantastic. Well, the next day, the new case manager comes in, and I ask her if she can give me a volunteer job at the hospital. And she goes, oh, that sounds like a lovely idea. What can we have you do? And she was this total hippie from 1960 San Francisco. So it was perfect. I had her in the palm of my hands. And so she gives me this job filing the patient binders, which is totally illegal. I mean, against HIPAA violation, HIPAA laws, you can't do that. So I'm filing the binders. She says, just do it alphabetically. Don't look at the details, So I'm doing that. And then I get my next job, clean out the giveaway clothes closet. So I clean out the giveaway clothes closet. I box bin, label everything, separated out, male, female, other. I realize all the men's stuff fits me. And so I come out of the closet with a Ralph Lauren double-breasted polo suit and a yellow 70s flared collar like some kind of gangster on the place. And I walk up to the nurse's station, and I have 5-finger discount, a notebook, a clipboard, and a pen. And I start writing like doodles on it, like I'm official, like I actually work there. And my dad walks in, and he goes, he's in his own suit and tie. And he sees his son in a suit in a psych ward. And he goes, Kevin, what the hell are you doing? Dad, I work here now. Oh, he was furious. He was just furious. He goes, get me the manager. And this lady goes, sir, this is not a hotel. He said, get me the head nurse now. And so she was the head nurse, and they fought it out. And I yell out, that's it. No more Pat Hines. And security escorted him out. Wow. It was horrible. It really hurt his feelings. I apologize since then. Yes. The next day, I'm in my pink polo shirt, khaki cargo shorts from this giveaway clothes closet, and I'm making the afternoon visiting hour announcements on the PA system, and I'm rhyming them because it's more efficient. And that's when I get a tap on my left shoulder, and I turn around, and there she was. Her eyes were almond brown, sexy, and cool, and I was done. I knew that she'd be the rest of my life. And I quickly said to myself, well, don't tell her that. That would be awkward, And so she said, she looks at me and she looks at the nurse's office, which is there's filled with nurses and staff, and it's totally packed. And loudly she says, excuse me, do you work here? And I looked at all the nursing staff, and they looked at me like, what is this little bird going to say? I looked at all them like, you better all be quiet or we'll all talk about the binders. And so I said, as a matter of fact, miss, I am a volunteer. And I looked at them like, you all be quiet. And they couldn't deny that. I volunteered for quite some time. She said, I'm looking for my cousin. His name is Eduardo. Do you know which room he's in? I said, madam, right this way. I put my arm on the small of her back and her elbow, and I glided her there, which was very awkward, she said later. I get her to the room. The kid sees me. I duck out into the hallway. I hear her say, your nursing staff is so nice. And he goes, that guy is a nutball. That guy jumps off bridges. Don't talk to that guy. And I ran in there. I said, it was one bridge. Girl, that's ridiculous. And so she comes out. She goes, why'd you lie to me? I said, Margaret, I didn't lie to you. I'm a volunteer at this very hospital. I just happen to also live here. And so the kid gets out of the hospital first. I get out and I call Margaret on the first day. So I'm in a halfway home, and I call Margaret on my first weekend off. And so I call Margaret. I say, hey, Margaret, listen, I'd love to take you to dinner. It's Friday. And she goes, who is this? I said, oh, it's Kevin Hines. I said, it's Kevin. She goes, Kevin who? Kevin Hines. And she goes, who? I said, from the psych ward? She goes, oh, hi, Kevin. I don't know. I don't think so. And I was like, no, Margaret, you don't understand. I need this date. Just one date. If it goes south, you never have to see me again. And she goes, oh, okay, fine. So I show up at her apartment, and I have a duffel bag filled with my things. And she goes, what is that? I said, well, it's a funny thing, Margaret. When you leave the halfway home on a Friday, it's Friday, and you go out past 9 p.m., you made reservations at 9, you kind of can't go back to halfway home till Monday? She goes, oh my God, are you kidding me? What the hell? I said, it was a debacle. The whole date was a debacle. I was lucky she went on the damn thing with me.
Right.
But I got lobster, I got marinara sauce all over my white shirt. I burned her with hot boiling butter by accident. I got lemon juice in her eye. It was an absolute mess. And basically it culminated with her saying, check, please. Like the meal. It was terrible. It was terrible. I thought, oh my God, we're never going to get married. We're never going to get together. It's over. It's done. Well, we ended up talking that whole night on the roof of her apartment, looking to the moon, and just laying there telling stories. And on our second date, I told her I loved her, and here we are now, married. We're together for 16 years, married for 13.
Kevin, oh my gosh, what an amazing story, man! You are a master storyteller. You are a master storyteller. This is probably going to be, of all the episodes that people listen to, this is probably the most that I've laughed. In an interview, you got me good and you pulled me right in, man. It is powerful, and what a wonderful gift that you have. And she saw you, she saw the worst of you, and so you're like, look, it can only go up from here, and now, and now she's got a great guy who's working hard every day to make this thing work and to thrive, and I'm so excited about your partnership and what you two are continuing to do. So inspirational, Kevin. I know you're tight on time, but I just want to make sure you get a chance to shout people where they can reach out to you, where they can find you.
My favorite place to be reached out to is YouTube. So my channel is youtube.com/Kevin. Just search YouTube Hines, and really it's a channel filled with about 400 videos designed to help you with your mental health. And there's some family related videos on there that I put up because I think it's just really important to show levity and hopefulness and happiness. But the majority of them are really mental health related and ready to help you. We actually have a series on there called My Brother's Keeper, which is a series where we interview young Black Americans who have triumphed over great adversity in their lives and have found success and found beautiful futures helping other people. So it's an awesome show. And we have, what else? We have Mental Health Marvels, which is another kind of a podcast related show where we interview folks from around the world who have struggled mentally and come back from the brink. And we have a series on there called The Art of Wellness, which is a playlist all about the tools and steps to take to better balance your brain health. No matter who you are, it's common sense tools for better brain health. So that's for everybody. Those are 3 to 5 minute videos that will help you get in a better place. People as far as Peru, Africa, China, Japan have said that those videos have helped them change their life. So that's been awesome. And then there's just a plethora of videos that are basically for every kind of mental illness and mental struggle. And if you go to my website, kevinhinesstory.com, and you go to kevinhinesstory.com/resources, you can see the YouTube guide into what videos help with what mental struggle.
That's great. So youtube.com/Kevin Hines, and then of course kevinhinesstory.com, and then you can do /resources to get those resources as well.
Yeah. And otherwise you just go to Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at that Kevin Hines Story.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you so much. We're going to end the recording right there. Thank you for listening to the Best Worst Thing podcast. I'm your host, Josh Walila. Music is produced by Josh One. You can follow him at Boomnote on Instagram and Twitter, and Josh One on Spotify. Our episodes are edited by Cool Jets Audio and Visual. You can follow them at Cool Jets AV on Instagram. Our marketing is designed by Francesca Daniels. You can find her at FrankandKitty24 on Instagram. And our overall design is by Inspired Design with Ryan Daniels. You can find them at getinspired.design on Instagram. Thank you for listening to The Best Worst Thing.
This one's for the good times, and this one's for the bad. This one's for the day that was the best we ever had. This one's for my good friends, and this one's for my foes. The ones who get up on your skin and do not even know.